So this is a work through of exercise 4.4, which when I handed out in class, I have labeled pass the Tylenol. This is one of the more annoying problems, but part of what you're supposed to be doing in an intermediate level course is to learn how to solve problems and to think about things. And this one, what I do in class is I give the students 15, 20 minutes, maybe 15, probably 15 minutes, to just get a start on this problem and see how far they get. And so what you might want to do is to pause this video and then go see what you can do with the problem. You know, give yourself 15 or 20 minutes, and then come back and you know, kind of work through how it works. So that would be the chance to pause and then come back. Okay, presumably you paused and then came back. If you didn't, this looks kind of silly, but whatever. Okay, so with this problem, where do you start? Okay, you're given, the records were destroyed by fire at the end of the year. The controller had kept statistical data, and so we're supposed to prepare a single-step statement. So we know that beginning inventory, decrease in inventory was 20%. Sales discounts, you get the shares of common stock, interest expense, income tax, and then cost of goods sold was 500. Okay. Administrative expenses were 20% of cost of goods sold and 8% of gross sales. Operating expenses that relate to sales activity are 4/5. Yeah, that's why I say pass the Tylenol. Okay, so where do we start? The only really solid number we have is our cost of goods sold. So if we start with cost of goods sold, okay, that's our 500,000. And it says that administrative expenses are 20% of that. So if we go 500,000 times 20%, we get administrative expenses are 100,000. Okay, so far so good. Over here, it tells us that administrative expenses are 8% of gross sales. This is enough. Yeah, my brain doesn't work like this, so these are not easy for me. I have to take that one a step at a time. So, so if gross, that translates to me, gross sales times 8% equals administrative expenses. Is that right? This is where I need the classroom there to tell me if I've gotten this right or not. So gross sales times 0.8 equals administrative expenses. So that would mean that if we divide, you would take the administrative expenses and divide by 0.08. So if we take our 100,000 administrative expenses and divide by 0.08, is that right? 0.08, 8%, yeah. We should get gross sales. So let's see what happens. Plus 100,000, we have to divide by 0.8. Gives us, oh, that might make sense. Okay, so gross sales are 1,250,000. All right, so we're supposed to be doing a, you know, an income statement. So we have gross sales now. What else? Oh, we have sales discounts. Oh, all right, so we got sales discounts are, okay, sales discount, we have that. That didn't work out too well. Okay, our 17,000. So that means our net sales would be the gross sales minus the discounts. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. We can actually start our income statement, right? So we can start with they asked for a single step, I think. So we'll just start with net sales of 1,233,000, okay? And then we would go cost of goods sold. Oh wait, we're doing a single step. Okay, so that would be our net sales. That would be just our revenues. And then we would do our expenses. And our first expense would be cost of goods sold. So that would be, we know that's the 500,000. What else do we know? Well, let's see, what about, we've got selling expenses and administrative expenses, but we don't know how much is each. Okay, so we have to figure that out. So we know we're going to have selling expenses of some amount. We're going to have administrative expenses. So let's see if we can figure that out. It says operating expenses that relate to sales activities are 4/5 of what? Are 4/5. Okay. So that means you've got operating expenses and administrative expenses. So if your operating expenses that relate to sales activities are 4/5, that means your operating expenses, let's just think about this for a minute, your operating expenses equal your selling expenses plus your administrative. Okay, so if your administrative expenses are 1/5 and your selling expenses are 4/5, and so your operating expenses would be 5/5. So you know administrative expenses, let's take this from the beginning, are 100,000. So if that's 1/5, then the total must be 500,000, right? Because it's 1/5 of that. And so that means your selling expenses must be 400,000. You can see why I say pass the Tylenol on this one, right? Okay, so selling expenses, 400,000. Administrative, 100,000. Make that line there. And then, let's see, what else do we have? We have interest expense of 20,000 that they know about. And they give us the, we have to compute the tax. So we have our sales of this amount, and net sales of that. We've got all our expenses here. Let's try that a different way. We've got all of our expenses. I'm just going to sum them up. Whoops. Okay, so we've got expenses so far of this amount here. So we can just go sort of sum those up. We get expenses of 1,020. So that means we have net income of this minus revenues minus expenses, or 213. Doing this right. Okay, 213, 30% tax rate. So our taxes would be the 213 times the 30%, or 63.9. So we could just go income tax expense 63.9. And so then you would have your total expenses. Let's sum all those guys up of 1,083, and our net income. This revenues minus your expenses equals the 149,100. Okay, so that is your net income. And then you have to do your earnings per share. They give you, I ran out of room for that, so I'll do it over here. The earnings per share, you've got the 149 divided by the number of shares outstanding are 20,000. So you go plus net income divided by the shares outstanding. Gives you $7.46. Okay, so that's the kind of problem that, you know, I'm not going to give you that on an exam. I'm mean, but I'm not that mean. So, but it is good to work through these just to make sure that you can do it because it helps you think. Okay.